here on KRFF 95.9 LPFM. RadioFreeFargo.org is streaming everywhere in the stinking world, even Ukraine. Thank you for checking out independent radio. Support local artists. And thank you for keeping it locked here at KRFF 95.9 LPFM. This is Thursday, in case you guys didn't know. It's the day right after Wednesday, and it's the day right before Friday. Thirsty Thursday, it's been called. And I don't drink, so I don't call it that. I call it Thursday. The day I come in at 4 o'clock and do Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I'm Wilson. Welcome. Thanks for joining me. We're going to talk about cannabis. We're going to talk about cannabis legalization. We're going to talk about the crazy thing that happened in South Dakota just mere minutes ago. And so we'll open a big fat bag of cannabis news at 4:20. So make sure you're around for that. Make sure if you got a medical card, you got ice in your cylinder, because, you know, it'll probably go better with medicine. And if not, well, we still want you around. Right before me, side stage with Trav, 1 to 3. And and he sets me up to be good, because it's a good show. So if you haven't checked out Side Stage with Trav 1 to 3 on Thursdays, go ahead and do that. Then 4 to 5, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. That's me. Right after me, Stinky Arts Music Mart. He's right in after me, literally in here at the same time I'm in here as I leave. Locals on the 8, Radio Free Madness, Black Ring Ritual, and there is your Thursday. Again, notwithstanding any other days, there's a variety of stuff every day. At least one thing you could probably find that you'd be glad existed in the airwaves here in Fargo, Moorhead. Again, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday, 4:20. We open a big fat bag of cannabis news. So get ready. But first, let's thank Black Cottage Alchemy, blackcottagealchemy.com, for sponsoring this show. Body butter is what they got, and it is great. 1,600 mgs of CBD. They got comfrey, frankincense, colloidal silvers. I didn't bring the jug, but come downtown, go to Thc Products. They got everything you need in there. Ask Joe; he knows what you need, and he'll fill you in on on the particulars. Again, blackcottagealchemy.com, Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook, or downtown here, Thc Products. Tell Joe Wilson sent you. Thank you for supporting Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I believe cannabis was created by the man upstairs, God himself, to use as we see fit. And I am eternally grateful for him. And I thank him at Antioch Church every Sunday at 10 a.m. Won't you join me? And we'll thank him together for making this awesome plant grow up out of the ground for us. Now, strap on your resin-soaked seatbelt, and we're going to get this show on the road. Indie Cannabis Caucus is no longer getting signatures, as we all know. I'll keep you posted if they decide to, get another initiative going. The other one, Legalize ND, I mean, where are they? Where do they live? South Dakota? But anyway, anything North Dakota related shows up on my radar, I will get it to you dudes. Canna-Talk ND on Instagram when we post this, minus the music, and also on the podcast platforms. I prefer you would come here and support local radio, and I know that you will. Now, let's talk about Locals on the 8 presenting Wolf Mask, Gypsy, Wizard Queen, Prediction of the Witch, another one, and another one. 5 Dizzles at the Aquarium, a.k.a. Fishbowl, a.k.a. Above the Dempseys, March 18th. Doors 8, Show 9. Again, Locals on the 8 presents Wolf Mask, Gypsy, Wizard Queen, and Prediction of the Witch at the Aquarium, March 18th. Now, last but not least, because it's actually before this, March 11th, 9 p.m., Friday Night Freaks, Jeff Swift, House Proud, Minneapolis, Nice One Recordings, supporting DJ Caleb LP, KRFF Radio, that's us. Iktomi, also us at KRFF Radio Fargo. A benefit held at the Aquarium, minimum donation $5. Get out there, support local radio and local artists. Now I think we better just jump into some music. What do you think? Here is brand new Steve Earle, Hellbent for Leather. Well, welcome back. KRFF 95.9 LPFM. That was Hellbent for Leather, featuring Steve Earle, Ray Riley Hubbard. Brand new, 2022. Not a bad ditty. Thank you for joining me. It's Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Every Thursday, I jump in here through the window, 420, open a big fat bag of cannabis news. This Thursday's no different. Hang out. We got this crazy thing in South Dakota going on, and it's kind of interesting because I was going to tell you one thing to be ready for the next thing because there was a potential next thing, and all three of those things happened in the last 2 days. So it's kind of one of these things where it's kind of a soap opera that I'm going to take you through. You're going to cry, you're going to laugh, and then the question is will you be laughing or crying when it's done? I would argue that you probably cry. But, so I could just tell you the newest news, you know what I mean? But I'm just going to set it up because it's kind of interesting because of what they did and what it was called and all that. But, man, South Dakota, what a debacle, huh? Anyway, 420, we're going to open a big fat bag of cannabis news. Normally, I would talk about ND for Freedom of Cannabis Act, the petition that was circulating. I tell you where to go and everything. But so now I got this section right here in the middle that I don't know what to do with. But I'm going to maybe just read this article. This is from KX News. This is a North Dakota story. This is about, and the title is Canna-Moms Protest for Patient Protection in Bismarck. And you probably know Leslie Ann Paulson Hubert. She was one of those Canna-Moms, and she's Committee for Compassionate Care. And if you have any questions medically or just any cannabis-related questions, reach out to her, and she will take care of you. But anyway, moms took to the streets protesting their rights to use medical cannabis in Bismarck. The protesters, who call themselves Canna-Moms, voiced their concerns outside of a Burley Social Services and say they're facing repercussions that may affect their families. You have a lot of people on a lot of different medications in this world that don't have to worry about losing their children to stay healthy, said Stephanie Hames. It's hard to say. Says the issue is the lack of patient protection laws. She says because the courts treat medical cannabis as a controlled substance, many people are running into issues in the system, which would make sense. Except it's medical, and it's allowed, and it's not a controlled substance in the state of North Dakota courts. But we're good parents because our choice of medication doesn't change who we are, and it doesn't change our children. Amen. I think a lot of the argument is whether it's appropriate for children to know about the existence of cannabis, which in this day and age, it seems like a silly argument because it's certainly going to be something they have to deal with at one point or another. According to the North Dakota legislator, cannabinoid is a chemical compound that's an active constituent of cannabis. Patients use cannabinoids as a necessary treatment for conditions like seizure, autism, Crohn's disease, cancer, and more. For example, cancer patients who may be in pain, it would help them with pain, but the benefit they would also get is that they wouldn't have the side effects that they would on other meds. And I've seen so many people, as a result, be just be snowed over, they call it. The pain's gone, but they're gone. They just are floating around in this ether. Whereas cannabis, it mitigates the pain, but it allows you to be you. It doesn't snow you over, which you could argue that maybe that isn't as high as people think that you would get when you use cannabis, as opposed to, say, stinking Oxycontins. You know what I mean? So Leslie Ann says, I think there's a lot of people out there who don't have access to it, can't find a certified doctor. It's just important for all of us. And I would argue that if it was important for a lot of us, they should have been stinking out there in Bismarck with these Canna-Moms. And we need more support. More people to step out, because again, without this, we got nothing. We want people to understand we are people, we are human, we're here to do good things, and to just please give us a chance to just be. Medical cannabis is legal in North Dakota, however, rec is not. The North Dakota Cannabis Caucus made multiple efforts to get the vote on the ballot. So shout out Canna-Moms. All right, and that's a little something, a little taster, a little tease before the 420 bag of cannabis news is opened. Merely because I've got the time to fill, and, I could just say a bunch of dumb stuff, which, I still could do. Just hang on, buddy. But anyway, I've got some, what do I have? I got the Punch Brothers coming up. They redid Hell on Church Street. It's brand new, of course. And I'm going to play it here for you. 2 songs. First is Church Street Blues. The other is Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Oh, it's a great song. You guys want to put on your short pants, throw a log on the fire, pack yourself a pipe of tobacco, or not, because it's not good for you. And get ready for these. These are like if it was fall in Albert Lee for the Big Island Rendezvous, and the Punch Brothers were on the wooden stage with the candles, it would sound something like this on KRFF. And that was the wreck of Edmund Fitzgerald. That's beautiful. Punch Brothers, brand new. Right before that, Church Street Blues here at KRFF 95.9 LPFM. It's 420, so we're going to do Canna-Talk ND with Wilson right on the other side of this. But programming on KRFF 95.9 is being underwritten by Art Riot Promotions. Art Riot will design and print any business or personalized custom decal in a variety of shapes and sizes. Art Riot creates custom engraved gifts and promotional items. Art Riot offers flexible online or in-person consultations. Local in-store pickup or shipping is available for any order. Visit them at 819 Main Avenue in Moorhead. Art Riot is open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You can find them online at artriotpromotions.com and also on Facebook and Instagram. Without further ado, let's do what we do. And we're going to talk about it right on the other side of this. South Dakota news on deck here.
Yo, it's Wilson from Canna-Talk ND. You know, the super awesome show you're getting ready to listen to. I think you should go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll wait. Okay, enjoy the show.
And just like that, we're going to do Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I'm Wilson, and you guys are not. But that's all right. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for checking it out. We're going to talk about cannabis. I talk about cannabis legalization, cannabis in a positive light. There's nothing going on in North Dakota, but boy, oh boy, is there stuff going on in South Dakota. Now, again, I'm going to start 3 days ago on February 28th, and I'm going to wrap up today just mere hours ago of this stinking South Dakota saga. So, cannabis moment. South Dakota House panel rejects Senate-passed cannabis legalization bill. So, again, normally the House usually passes because they usually are reflective of what the people want, right? And the Senate are the ones that think they're better than the House, and they know better than everything else, and they usually don't vote it through. But the Senate did, and it was up to the House. And the South Dakota House Committee defeated a Senate-passed bill 8-3. The state Senate had narrowly, the state Senate had narrowly approved the legislation bill SB 3, Senate Bill 3 last week. But the House State Affairs Committee defeated it by voting 8-3 to move the legislation to the 41st day of the session, one day after the session ends, thereby preventing its consideration. So isn't that crazy? How do you get to do that? They're like, well, if we can push it to 41 days, then we only do 40 days, and then it's moot and whatever. So anyway, advocates say the fight isn't completely over yet. This is where it gets exciting. However, it's possible that the measure could be revived if 24 lawmakers agree to force floor consideration. Now, whether there's the will for that kind of legislative maneuvering, check out what this is called. It's called a smoke out, y'all. That's right. It's possible that this measure could be revived if 24 lawmakers agree to force floor consideration, and this forced floor consideration is called a smoke out. I'm not making it up. I never made it up. I don't think anybody thought that this would ever be applied to a bill that references smoking out more than any other legislative parlance. So, Senate Bill 3, this was on Monday, was from South Dakota for Better Cannabis Laws, was just defeated in the South Dakota House. It demonstrates that the political establishment's disdain for the will of the peeps, that this fight's not over. A group of 24 state representatives can still force a bill to the floor. It's called a smoke out. We will keep working to pass legislation. Okay. So, again, Matthew, he says the fight is not over. If we ultimately come up short in this legislative session, then we'll go back to the ballot because they're going to get it back on the ballot. That's just going to happen. They got almost all the signatures. So he says they can delay legalization, but they can't stop it. We have the will of the people on our side. But again, legislative and the governor is pretty powerful. So anyway, that's that. Okay, so now you're wondering, well, what happened with the smoke out? Okay. Let me tell you. So, South Dakota lawmakers revive cannabis legalization bill. So, the story before that said it's dead, except they could smoke it out. Okay, so, lawmakers revive it in smoke out vote a day after committee defeat. So, a coalition of South Dakota House lawmakers on Tuesday agreed to revive a bill to legalize cannabis one day after committee soundly defeated it, using a legislative maneuver known as a smoke out, people. Come on. to bring the legislation to the floor. The Senate passed Senate bill last week, but it seemed all but certain that it would no longer advance. Activists didn't give up the fight, however, and rallied 24 members of the House to bring the issue to the floor despite the committee's setback. So anyway, Representative Greg Jameson attempted to smoke out SB 3. Barely has enough. Now I'll need a few more to calendar it. South Bill is still alive right now. So Senate Bill 3 was just smoked out on the House floor when enough members stood. So that's what it was. House Speaker goes, all you members wishing to revive the legalization bill stood up. And when enough members stood up, he quipped, we just smoked out a weed bill. Let's give it a hand. I mean, smoked out is the legitimate term for what these guys did. This is crazy. So Matthew, again, he goes, this is an encouraging outcome today. Now, House floor action on the Senate passed bill is expected to happen on Wednesday, and it would require a simple majority of 36 votes. So, smoke out, an act which invokes a joint rule, 7-7. And come on, a joint rule for a smoke out regarding legalization of cannabis? This is crazy, people. I mean, who's coming up with this lingo? But anyway, an act which invokes a joint rule, 7-7, whereby 1/3 of the members of a House can require a committee to deliver a bill to the full body by the next legislative day. And that's a smoke out. And it's actually done with a joint rule. So, now here's the sad news, because I also know what happened. So, 42 minutes ago, published Cannabis Moment. South Dakota House rejects cannabis legalization bill that was temporarily revived in smoke out vote. So, if you're in South Dakota and you want to tell these House of Representatives where they can go because you voted them in, I happen to have information here. So please take action now if you haven't already. Please encourage. We expected a vote yesterday on Senate Bill 150, but it was delayed. And Senate Bill 150, they want you voting no if they want you calling your representatives to vote no. Send 2 emails, one for each of your 2 state reps. Call the State Capitol House line and leave a message for your 2 state reps. The number is 605-773-3851. Again, 605-773-3851. And get that done. All right. So we are urging the House to vote yes on Senate Bill 3, but that just died. Okay. So we are urging the House to vote no on Senate Bill 150 to protect medical cannabis patients from harsh convictions. We expected a vote yesterday on Senate Bill 150, but it was delayed. So make sure you get a hold of your representatives and tell them Senate Bill 150 is of the devil, and you will never forgive them if they run that through. All right. So here we go. South Dakota House, or just call that number and tell your representative that you no likey them no more. No more you likey. The South Dakota House on Thursday rejected a bill to legalize cannabis, and this is just fresh out, that had been temporarily revived after a committee defeat earlier this week. Actually, it had been temporarily revived by what's called a smoke out. Now, activists are moving ahead with an effort to put legalization before voters again this November, which will happen. They'll just make sure it doesn't violate the single subject rule. Meanwhile, the House defeated separate legislator to gut existing protection for medical cannabis patients. Oh, no. So it looks like they did put 150 through. We'll talk about it here. It's been a wild ride for the legalization proposal, Senate Bill 3, which had already passed the Senate. Then the House State Affairs Committee voted against the proposal, which would have spelled death. However, 24 members rose up Tuesday to give the bill new life on the floor despite the committee action, a legislative maneuver that is by pure coincidence known as a smokeout. But even after the legislative about-face, the House on Thursday ultimately voted 28-40 not to formally calendar the bill, effectively killing it for the session. Just before the vote, Jameson urged colleagues to give the body a chance to debate the legislation. All of South Dakota voted on this issue. The entire Senate body voted on this issue. Today is our chance to complete the cycle of this issue. Voters already approved legislation during the 2020 election. It was struck down by Supreme Court. The activists decided to take a 2-track approach to the reform in 2022. And they are working with legislators, but they suck. So now they're separately collecting signatures for a ballot initiative. They're disappointed by this outcome, but we're not surprised. We have long been aware of the fact that most politicians and peers do not respect the opinions of their constituents. when it comes to cannabis policy. We will continue our signature drive and put legislation back on the ballot this November, and we will win for a second time. We've done it before. We'll do it again. So anyway, be watching out for that Senate bill. So, looks like they already defeated. So I think this is good news. Let me read it. Okay. Thursday, the House defeated a separate bill, Senate Bill 150, that was originally meant to deal with penalties and initial rules that would have been put into place if voters approved legislation on the ballot. The House State Affairs gutted that legislation, replacing it with language that advocates view as hostile. As drafted and passed in the Senate, a provision of the measure would have made it so only existing businesses that currently hold liquor license would be eligible to enter the cannabis market. Ridiculous. That would have included places like gas stations, grocery stores, and bars. Oh, wait a minute. That's not a bad idea. But the language replaced by the panel with provisions from two separate bills, 20 and 16. 20 would eliminate certain legal protections for cannabis patients under a program that voters approved. SB 16 would expand police authority to conduct searches and make prosecutions for people who work at licensed medical cannabis facilities. That authority was reserved to regulators under the bill as drafted. Certain members argued that police need to have that ability given the absence of trained investigators in the Department of Health. Advocates have defeated several attempts to advance SB 20 several times this session, the latest on Thursday in its new vehicle. Separately, the House rejected another bill that would have established tax policy. Activists viewed that defeat as a setback, but clarified that the measure itself would not have legalized adult-use cannabis. So anyway, while the House proved to be a clear obstacle to enacting legalization, no one presents another barrier. So again, we're just going to have to vote it through again, or North South Dakota. But again, call the South Dakota House Representatives and let them know what's up. Okay. Canna-Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday, 4:20 I get in here. No, 4 o'clock I get in here, 4:20 open a big fat bag of cannabis news. That's what we're doing here right now on KRFF 95.9, the best radio station in the world as far as I'm concerned. Now, here's from High Times Magazine. NCAA eases rules testing for cannabis use among college athletes. Now, I don't know what this means, but the NCAA officially raises its THC threshold from 35 to 150, changing the game for athletes. So, it's relaxing its policy, and that's awesome. College ball. The NCAA said that the new THC threshold for its students athletes was established by the World Anti-Doping Agency, and it raises the amount of THC required to constitute a positive test. 35 to 150 nanograms, which I don't really know what that means. But reconsidering the approach is consistent with feedback from membership, how to better support and educate student athletes in a society with rapidly evolving public health and cultural views regarding cannabis use. Cannabis is not considered a performance-enhancing substance, but it remains important for member schools to engage student athletes regarding substance use prevention. Policy shift by the NCAA, which comprises more than 1,000 schools in the U.S., spanning 3 different divisions, is the latest example of American sports reckoning with the changing attitudes and laws in the country. Majority of states have legalized cannabis in some form. Domestic sporting leagues like the NBA and NFL have updated their drug testing. CSMAS also recommended that all 3 divisions change the penalties for a positive cannabis test, so each division will be required to separately adopt new legislation. So, the penalty structure, one positive would mean an NCAA athlete would immediately have to miss 50% of a regular season, and a second would mean an athlete would sit out for the equivalent of one season. But now, the first test would result in no loss of eligibility if the school provides a management plan. A second test would likewise result in no loss of eligibility if the school provides additional management, although the student athlete must be withheld from 25% of regular season contest. A third positive test would not result in a loss of eligibility either, but the student athlete must be withheld from 50% of regular season. So that's awesome. So shout out NCAA for hooking that up. Now, this is from High Time Magazine, too, and it just was posted a couple hours ago. LA cultivators, Jungle Boys, raided over bogus late fees. TLC, home of the Jungle Boys, was raided by law enforcement over 66 G's. That's 1,000 for you dummies, which the collective had already disputed and had a hearing date for. Tuesday night saw one of LA's most storied dispensaries have a rough run-in with law enforcement. TLC is famously the headquarters of the Jungle Boys. They're one of the premier examples of urban farmers bootstrapping their way to success in the modern cannabis industry, which has seen so many tragically fall short and have to sell a piece or sell out completely. So as one of the culture's best, one of the best culture's best success stories, In a world of corporate dogs, the community was pissed to see that they had to go what they had to go through last night. Why? Because we've watched them jump through every hoop that's ever existed for the legal cannabis market in LA. They maintain a quality that's better than most. While some would say, well, this is legal cannabis in regards to the raid and wouldn't be wrong, those with a bit more hope in their hearts would be pissed to see someone who's done so well up to this point be treated like this. So what happened? We talked with Ivan from the Jungle Boys to find out. 5 o'clock in the evening, we're all sitting outside of the shop. It's the first of the month, so we're paying all our bills. We look up at the camera and see 1 car, 2 car, 3 car, 4 car, and like, holy crap, they must be chasing someone inside of our building, you know. We watched them come up, and my first thought was either they're chasing someone inside of our building or someone that worked for us maybe has a warrant. As they started to watch the employees get corralled by law enforcement, they realized the situation was quickly turning into something else. We started seeing a roundup of all of our employees into the front lobby, and we're like, what? Are we raided? He immediately jumped in the line with his lawyer. As he looked up at the cameras, he then explained what happened next. Right next to the office, 2 cops came with guns on us, put them in our face, told us to get down. This is a raid, and we're like, whoa. Ivan spent the first hour presuming someone had really screwed up somewhere to cause this kind of event at the shop. I was thinking in my head we owed them millions of dollars. I've never seen it. Where have you highway patrol undercovers? Every agency, they're all working together. I was saying, we owed them. Okay, so eventually the TLC team would discover this was all caused by a fine discrepancy from when their offices were closed during the pandemic. Despite the $18 million they did receive from the Jungle Boys last year, they decided to move forward with this action on 66,000, some the Jungle Boys already received a hearing date for. They'll come in, and so they regularly inspect the dispensaries. They'll come in and ask to see your last few invoices to make sure everything is in order. We asked Ivan if during those site inspections that have increased seemed off or ever felt like things weren't cool. He said it always seemed normal. They would come, say what they wanted to see, and they would go along with it. But once Ivan realized what was really up, they weren't going along with this. They were trying to charge us late fees, and we appealed that. TLC provided all the paperwork, but apparently that still wasn't enough. They won't talk to their lawyer. They won't look at the appeal paperwork. They just basically said they're taking all the money inside the building. I'm like, wait, this is over the $66,000? At this point, Ivan's demeanor started to change. He's like, he's cussing. He's cussing. You're raiding our building over a cussing dispute that we have a date set. You guys have sent the email. You guys cussing, accepted it. We sent you faxes. This is what this is about. As Ivan was raging, they cleared out $174,000 from TLC. They even emptied the tip jars. And they told them that it's standard procedure for cannabis business or any business. We're not singling out any industry. If you owe taxes in California, we are do our best to collect what is due. I mean, if that's not gangster mob kind of stuff, I don't know what is. So, this is from High Times also. Virginia rejects proposal to start weed sales this year. Fortunately, Virginia lawmakers decided that 2022 is not the year for recreational cannabis in the state, much to advocates' disappointment. So it'll have to wait another year at least. And basically it continues the saga of cannabis setbacks in the Commonwealth. The Democratic-controlled Senate passed the bill, which would have launched the sales, but the bill flamed out in the House of Delegates, arguing that there's not enough time to perfect the complex legislation while promising to address it next year. So this is your typical pushing the, kicking the can down the road. And I just hate that in people we vote in to do work for us, So a House subcommittee voted 5-3. And again, the House is the representative of the people. So it's interesting. The outcome speaks to the uncertainty surrounding the new cannabis law and underscores how much the political landscape has changed since last year, when Virginia became the first state in the South to legalize recreational cannabis. But in November, Republican Glenn Youngkin won the open governor's seat and took the majority back in the state Senate. Let's see. Youngkin and newly empowered Republicans have said they do not intend to scrap the part of the law that legalized personal possession, but it's unclear what he and other members tend to do about cannabis sales. When it comes to commercialization, I think there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm not against it, but there's a lot of work to be done, said Youngkin. He said there are some non-starters, including the forced unionization that's in the current bill. Finally, there's a real need to make sure we aren't promoting an anti-competitive industry. I do understand that there are preferences to make sure that all participants in the industry are qualified to do the industry well. The bill to move up the start date for cannabis sales passed by a vote of 23-16 in the state Senate. The new proposed start date would have been a significant change. The bill would have allowed medical providers. But anyway, they got screwed. So say they left the cannabis law in a state of disarray last year. The bill is to move up start date to September 15th. So it looks like they're still going to get it. But anyway, check this out. MJ Biz Daily, cannabis vape customers get up to $200 each in Oregon class action case. Class action settlement checks of up to $200 will soon be sent to people who bought certain mislabeled vapes from Cura Partners in 18 and 19. They reached a $500,000 settlement, which pertains to Select Elite, packs, and Select Dabbables, purchased between the time frame I mentioned. Cura's product packaging failed to note that the ingredients included botanical terpenes, so it was mislabeled. They agreed to pay a $110,000 dishonest conduct penalty, which is interesting. The company's facing lawsuits for inadvertently putting THC in certain CBD wellness drops sold last year. Curaleaf reportedly settled 10 lawsuits, but there's still 3 active. According to lawsuits, several individuals said they had to go to the hospital emergency rooms after taking the mislabeled wellness drops. And I wonder why they did, But anyway, what else we got to talk about? So this is from Normal, February 24th. Case report. Cannabis associated with symptom improvements in ADHD patients. The use of cannabis is associated with mitigation of symptoms and improvements in a patient's quality of life. Canadian researchers documented improvements in the 3 male ADHD patients, 18, 22, and 23, following the integration of cannabis into their treatment regimen. Following the use of cannabis, patients showed improvements in depression, anxiety, and in their ability to pay attention. Researchers said that the findings suggested that cannabis played a complementary role in the therapeutic regimen of these 3 patients. And that's good news because I've always felt like I've had ADHD, and as a Christian, you justify using what still is kind of demonized in the God world, even though, who else made it? It didn't just show up, We can believe God created a dog, but not a plant. I mean, who else? If not God, who? And there's a male and female plant, which seems to be like, the order of creation. You know what I'm saying? You need a male and a female to create it. The male is boring and lame and is the industrial version, and the female's pretty, beautiful. It's got buds. Smells good like it should. I mean, that's creation. Male and female. So what do you got? You got a male plant and a female plant. It's easy for me to see that God may have created this plant, just like all the other plants, to use. And ADHD seems to be one of those things that it plays into. Survey data published last year reported that patients often self-medicate with cannabis, and that most reports that it alleviates their symptoms. And I attest to that. Clinical studies have reported that both inhaled cannabis as well as extracts mitigate symptoms in human subjects. Israeli data published in 2020 further reported that ADHD patients with legal access to medical cannabis products significantly reduce their use of prescription medication. Well, that's good enough for me, folks. You've been great. Good night. All right, just kidding. I'm going to read one more article. MJ Biz Daily. Washington legislators weigh ban on Delta 8, other hemp-derived products. And it's so interesting because it's like you don't legalize the good stuff, so we're going to somehow make good stuff out of the on the thing you think can't be made good out of. So anyway, lawmakers in Washington state are considering a last-minute bill that would prohibit intoxicating hemp-derived products such as Delta 8 THC. The recently introduced bill was spurred by the booming hemp industry. Many businesses have turned to the Washington state hemp industry for cheaper biomass in order to produce intoxicating cannabis that they can sell for cheaper at gas stations and wherever. Such products have been sold to minors, and they're hoping to stop that. The question of what should be done about cannabinoids such as Delta 8 has divided the Washington state industry. Many entrenched cannabis industry participants are taking advantage of hemp flower, which is cheaper than cannabis flower, to manufacture and sell products that compete directly with licensed farmers. If Washington were to move forward with a ban on intoxicating hemp products, it would join at least 17 other states that have enacted similar bans over the past year, the AP noted. And so there you go. There you have it. Sales boom. Cannabis industry braces for a crackdown. Yeah, mail and stuff. That's interesting to me. Now, I don't have time to read this, but if you went to cannabisnow.com, there's an article called Cannabis and COVID-19, What's the Truth? Maybe we'll read a little. Okay, Blake Pearson is a board-certified physician in Canada, where cannabis is legal, who can only prescribe a single FDA-approved CBD pharmaceutical and may only recommend high-THC cannabis. Person can prescribe cannabis to his patients, and he does. CBD for autism, THC for dementia, always in precise amounts. A few of his patients have asked for cannabis as part of a general strategy against the coronavirus. This is largely because since the very beginning of the pandemic, cannabis has presented as a possible treatment or cure. He doesn't recommend it as preventative or treatment. It's way too early to advise an actual dosing regimen to prevent COVID. And to the 2 or 3 patients who inquired, does this give me some protection from COVID? He says it's possible, but there's no way you can confirm it. So, researchers at Oregon State University examined compounds found in raw cannabis, prevented the novel coronavirus from entering human cells in an in vitro or test tube study. Researchers at the University of Chicago shows that a large dose of CBD inhibited COVID-19 infection in mice. So, it's still too early. Both studies did trigger wild misinterpretations and empty speculations. And, suppositions that smoking cannabis was why this or that person didn't get COVID, or why their infection was less severe, or the CBD makers were actually right. None of that is the case, and until there are more studies, you won't recommend cannabis as any part of his patient strategy. You really can't infer much from preclinical studies. We see this all the time. When you get to human trials, it often doesn't correlate. So while it's interesting, and I'm certainly pleased to see results, this is a reason to explore more studies in humans. And so that would be interesting, and it would make more sense as a natural thing given to us by our Creator to use as medicine and textiles and all that other mess. But anyway, let's give ourselves a hand. We have successfully gotten to the end of a Canna-Talk ND with Wilson here on KRFF 95.9, streaming wherever at RadioFreeFargo.org, programming on KRFF 95.9 FM Radio Free Fargo. It's being underwritten by Moorhead Herbal Galleria. Moorhead Herbal Galleria is Minnesota's only CBD Delta house. They offer carts, vapes, CBD oil, pet tincture, and more. Moorhead Herbal Galleria is located at 2921 South Frontage Road, Suite number 1 in Moorhead, Minnesota. Their phone number is 218-512-0355. Open 10 a.m. through 11 p.m. Monday through Saturday. For more info, check out Moorhead Herbal Galleria on Facebook and their website, www.moorheadherbalgalleria.com. Again, thanks for checking out Canna-Talk ND with Wilson, where we tackle all the hard-hitting cannabis issues of the week. Just kidding. I'm the least serious guy you're going to find. However, I dusted off this old classic. I'm going to play some Concrete Blonde from 1990. This is off the Bloodletting album. This is Lullaby, Concrete Blonde, 95.9. Oh, man, that brought me back to a smelly old apartment in Wapata, North Dakota, the summer of 1990. Lullaby, Concrete Blonde. Man, I really wanted to be a vampire after that album. I'm not going to lie. KRFF 95.9, RadioFreeFargo.org, Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. I'm on my way out this sucker, but right on deck is Stinky Arts Music Mart, and he's raring to go. I can see him from here, raring to go. That's why I know he's raring to go, because I can see him. BlackCottageAlchemy.com, Black Cottage Alchemy on Facebook, is the sponsor of today's Canna-Talk ND with Wilson. Cannabis, it's got 1,600 megs of CBD in the body butter. You can get it at Tochi Products or online, BlackCottageAlchemy.com. Again, I recommend everybody having some of it somewhere readily available for whatever you need. But it's great for a topical, any skin disorder. It works great topically. Again, I use it on my feet, and I swear by it. I use it as deodorant. And I use it to slick my hair back when I'm at church, because I can't wear my hat in church, apparently. Apparently, it's disrespectful to wear my super cool green hat in church. So I have to use the body butter to slick my hair back. So again, thank you, Black Cottage Alchemy, for sponsoring this show that promotes cannabis and cannabis legalization and the benefits of it. I'm going to jump out of here because my time here is done. Again, come back next Thursday and listen to me tell you that cannabis needs to be legalized. And if you don't like it, you're wrong. I'm right. And it'll be exciting. Right now, though, get yourself ready for some good tunes at Stinky Arts Music Mart. But right now, it's me saying, educate yourself so you can educate others on the benefits of cannabis. I'm out of here. Here's David Allen, Judgment Day. Peace.